Welcome to the funeral. Grab a drink. Make it a cheap one. Lukewarm tap water, generic cola. The kind of regret that comes in a dented can. Because apparently $800 is the new entry-level price. That is the price for the privilege of sitting on your couch. That is the price for ignoring your family with higher fidelity. The latest numbers are out. They do not look bad. They look medically pronounced. Circana says we just had the worst November for console dollar sales since 2005. 2005. Back when people thought low-rise jeans were an ideology. Back when the Motorola Razr felt like science fiction. Back when cloud gaming sounded like a weather report. Black Friday is the national ritual. We pretend a doorbuster deal justifies behaving like feral raccoons. This year it was a ghost town for console hardware. This is the one month that should be a booster shot for the entire year. The industry showed up with a bandage. The industry showed up with a shrug. The data is a bloodbath. Xbox Series X is down 70% year over year. 70. If a pilot lost 70% of altitude, nobody would call it a market adjustment. We would call it a crater. We would start collecting debris. Sony's PS5 is down 40%. Sony is acting like the valedictorian of the remedial class. They only set half the house on fire. Even Nintendo saw a 10% dip. Nintendo is the industry's golden child. Nintendo usually sells hardware like they are handing out oxygen in a vacuum. Physical software sales are the worst since 1995. 1995, we time traveled 30 years. Not in a fun Back to the Future way. More like welcome back to dial-up. Now your rent is higher. Now your electricity bill can bench press you. Some suit will grin and say this proves digital has won. No, it proves fewer people are buying. Physical died first because management spent years treating it like a disposable inconvenience. If you starve a thing, then point at it and call it weak. You do not get to act like you discovered biology. And yet the corporate tone remains calm. Professional, almost soothing. Management steps up with the face of someone announcing a slightly late train. They talk about challenging market conditions, as if the market is a rain cloud. Not a tire fire they started. Not a tire fire they started with a flamethrower labeled premium pricing strategy. They will blame tariffs. They will blame supply chains. They will blame macroeconomics. They will blame moon phases. They will blame the general cruelty of existence. They will do anything before they blame the simplest cause. They raised the cost of fun. They raised it until fun needed financing. This is not man versus machine. The machine is fine. The machine does exactly what it is told. It has the moral agency of a toaster. This is creator versus exploitative management. Creator is the animator who spends 3 weeks making a cape move like cloth, not like wet cardboard. Creator is the engineer who hunts a memory leak at 2:40 am. Somebody on the internet will notice. They will be right. Creator is the designer who tunes jump arcs until they feel like muscle memory. Creator is the writer who tries to make a side quest land emotionally. Creator is the audio lead who knows a single footstep can ruin a scene. Creator is the person who still cares after the 50th meeting. Management is the cult's high priest. Management calls layoffs right sizing. Management calls price hikes value alignment. Management calls a battle pass player choice. Management calls your time engagement. Management does not make worlds. Management makes funnels. Management does not ask whether something is fun. Management asks whether it converts. Fun is messy. Fun is personal. Conversion fits neatly inside a spreadsheet. Conversion behaves during earnings calls. Conversion is measurable. So management trusts it more than delight. Delight does not show up in a chart. Not unless you rename it retention. So let's talk about prices. This is where the joke turns into a hostage note. Xbox raised hardware prices twice this year. Twice. The Series S is the so-called budget box. It is now $400 to $450 depending on the model. That is impressive because budget used to mean less than rent. Now it means choose between this and a dental filling. The Series X is now $600 to $800 depending on storage. Apparently the ability to store games is an optional luxury. Like heated seats in a tank. You can practically hear the pitch. Sure, the machine plays games. But do you really need to keep them? Sony looked at that and said we can do that too. All PS5 prices jumped $50. The PS5 digital is now $500. That is $100 more than at launch. The standard is $550. The PS5 Pro is $750. That console exists to solve the urgent crisis of my paddles do not reflect enough. We are in the back half of a console generation. History says prices should drift down. Slim models should arrive. The library should carry hardware sales like a strong back. We got the opposite. We got price hikes. We got premium tiers. We got a steady insistence that the problem is our attitude. Nintendo launched the Switch 2 at $500. The original Switch was $300. That is a 66% jump. Yes, it is selling like crazy. Nintendo fans will follow Mario into a volcano. He only has to promise a new hat. He only has to promise a slightly different jump sound. But even here you see the 10% dip in combined switch lines. The casual crowd looks at 500. Parents, grandparents, people who want Animal Crossing and peace. They realize the old switch still turns on. They realize it still delivers the same basic miracle. Distraction. Now management has a list of excuses. It is laminated. Tariffs, inflation, supply chain, consumer confidence. Sure, those are real. But here is what management cannot stand admitting. When everything gets more expensive, luxuries take the first hit. Consoles are not food. Consoles are not rent. Consoles are not a refuge. Consoles are a hobby. Consoles are an escape hatch. You turn the escape hatch into a toll booth. It is staffed by a smug accountant. Then you acted betrayed when people chose groceries. This is where the cognitive dissonance becomes art. For decades, consoles got cheaper as they aged. That was part of the deal. Early adopters pay full price. Everyone else waits. By the midpoint, you see bundles. You see discounts. You see, hey, here is the fun at a reasonable cost. Now we are in the back half. Prices are going up. That is like a restaurant raising the price of yesterday's leftovers. They say market conditions. No, that is not market conditions. That is you panicking. That is you charging loyal customers for your panic. They try to copy the iPhone playbook. They did not notice a phone is a modern limb. A phone is the thing your bank demands, your boss demands, your doctor demands, your mother demands. A console is a toy box for joy. Joy does not survive a payment plan, yet here we are. Executives treat a living room hobby like a luxury watch. Limited editions, pro branding, accessories sold separately, storage sold like diamond grades. They sell you less. They charge you more, they call it premium. That is not premium. That is ransom with nicer typography. That is ransom with a smug wink. Polls show around 70% of Americans feel the economy is unaffordable. People juggle groceries, housing, fuel, insurance, childcare. Then there is the new sport. Watching subscription fees multiply. In that environment, a $500 to $800 entertainment box is not a holiday essential. It is a debate inside the brain. It ends with a flat no. Not a dramatic no. Not an angry no. A tired no. The kind that comes from doing math at the kitchen table. Your phone reminds you a bill is due. Then there is Microsoft. Microsoft is performing a special kind of corporate cell phone. It deserves a plaque. Microsoft is running an ad campaign that tells people they do not need to own an Xbox. Don't buy our hardware. Subscribe to our service. Play on your phone. Play on your TV. Play on your refrigerator. Play on your neighbor's smart doorbell. I have never seen a company spend billions building a platform, then proudly announce the platform is optional. Like a restaurant telling you the food is fine, but you should probably eat somewhere else. They want you in the ecosystem. They want recurring revenue. They want you renting entertainment the way you rent a streaming service. Except the streaming service does not usually demand a $600 starter kit. Then it starts siphoning $20 a month. Subscriptions can be good value when done honestly. Management cannot do honestly. Management sees a subscription and thinks about how to make leaving painful. They do not want your money once, they want your money forever. They want you to feel guilty when you consider keeping it. Microsoft saw sold-out signs during the pandemic. They mistook stimulus-fueled escapism for a permanent law of nature. They assumed demand would never cool. They forgot why we bought those boxes. We were trapped inside. We were emotionally cooked. We wanted a portal. We wanted time to move faster. Now we are allowed outside again. Everything costs more. That $800 box looks less like a gateway to adventure. It looks more like an expensive cube. You dust it twice a month. Your bank app judges you. Sony is not innocent either. Sony saw Microsoft hike prices. Sony said, hold my sake. Sony turned premium into a reflex. The digital edition used to be the cheaper compromise. No discs. Lower cost. Now it is the same compromise. It comes with an additional fee. It is like paying extra to lose functionality. Then the Pro arrives. It is marketed like a moral upgrade. True gamers deserve this. No. True gamers deserve stable jobs, stable prices, games that ship finished, games that do not require a day one patch the size of a small novel. Nintendo delivers a distinct vibe. 500 is still 500. 500 is groceries. 500 is winter boots. 500 is the car made a noise and I cannot ignore it. Nintendo is leaning on devotion. Devotion is not a power source. Devotion is a battery. Management keeps draining it. Then management acts surprised it does not recharge on pure nostalgia. It does not recharge on a new shade of red for Joy-Con plastic. Here is what management never understands about gamers. Gaming is a great equalizer. It does not matter if you are a CEO. It does not matter if you are a kid in a trailer. Online you both get yelled at by a 12-year-old. He learned profanity from YouTube. He learned confidence from chaos. That equalizer depends on mass access. When you push hardware prices into the stratosphere, you kill the mass in mass media. You turn gaming into a luxury hobby like sailing. Sailing at least comes with fresh air. Sailing does not nag you about upgrading to the ultra captain tier. Culture takes the hit first. Creators need a wide audience. They need a big pool of players. Experiments can find supporters. Weird ideas can survive. Smaller studios can keep lights on. When management shrinks the pool, creators drown in it. Then management acts shocked. Creativity is drying up. They talk like it is a weather event. No, it is you. You drain the lake. You blame the fish for lacking resilience. Then you hold an innovation summit. You serve cookies shaped like light bulbs. And when the numbers still disappoint, management does what it always does. It fires the people who built the thing. Layoffs sweep through studios like a cold front. Teams that shipped a hit get chopped. The hit was not a miracle. Creators get told they should be grateful. Grateful for the opportunity to burn out. Management keeps the bonus. Management keeps the title. Management posts a heartfelt statement about tough decisions. Then management goes back to designing new ways to sell you the color blue. The experience on the box keeps getting more insulting. Boot the console. You are greeted by ads. You are an unpaid billboard. The dashboard is not a home, it is a mall. The mall asks if you would like to buy a battle pass. That is the privilege of walking past stores. Subscriptions stack on subscriptions. Online play fees. Service tiers. Ultimate. Premium Deluxe Founder. Early access. Early access means pay extra to be a beta tester. Fewer rights. More optimism. The whole interface feels like it was designed by a coupon app. The coupon app develops sentience. Then it shows violence. Ownership keeps getting thinner. You do not buy a game. You buy a license. The license can expire. Servers can be sunset. Stores can be shut down. Entire libraries can become inaccessible. Someone decided the legal burden was inconvenient. Management calls it sunsetting. They say it like a peaceful retirement. It is not retirement. It is eviction. It is telling players thank you for your money. Please enjoy your memories. Creators hate this. Creators did not build those worlds so they could be erased like chalk when a quarterly plan changes. So when console sales drop, the blame game begins. Management points outward. Macroeconomic headwinds, tariff pressure, industry maturation, shifts in consumer behavior. It sounds impressive. It sounds clinical. It dodges the mirror. The mirror says you raised prices late in the generation. You made the experience noisier. You made ownership shakier. You sold upgrades as identity. You acted surprised when consumers treated the whole thing like a bad deal. Consumers are not stupid. They are exhausted. They do the math. A console costs $500 to $800. A second controller costs more than a nice dinner. Games launch at $70, then deluxe editions at $90 or $100, then cosmetics, then seasonal passes, then subscriptions, then online fees. Meanwhile, rent climbs. Utilities climb. So the player asks a brutally rational question. Does this machine make my life better enough to justify the hit? In 2020, life was trapped and strange. The answer was often yes. In 2025, life is expensive and loud. The answer is increasingly no. Management keeps acting like the fix is more value. In their dialect, value means more upsells. They try to extract 100% of the value from 10% of the people. They avoid extracting 10% from 100%. They squeeze dedicated fans like toothpaste. They call it community engagement. That works until the tube is empty. Then you stand there still squeezing, still demanding. The only thing that comes out is air. A little sad wheeze. Gaming used to be an affordable alternative to reality, a cheap ticket to a different world, a way to feel competent, heroic, connected, or just distracted for a few hours. When reality gets harder, the refuge should not get harder to enter. Management turned refuge into a vault. It needs a credit check. They built a ladder. They charged rent on each rung. They looked at a hobby that kept people sane. They asked, how do we maximize extraction while keeping the press release friendly? Then they gave themselves awards for accessibility initiatives. Incredible. Nothing says accessibility like a $500 door. The funniest part is the darkest part. They still talk like they are the good guys. They frame themselves as pioneers dragging society forward. Meanwhile, the forward direction is pay more, own less, be grateful. That is not innovation. That is the rental economy wearing a gamer headset, pretending it invented joy. It is a cash register wearing a cape. So yes, the corpse is not gaming. Gaming will survive. Creators will keep creating. They are stubborn, talented, too angry to quit. Players will keep playing. Play is human. Boredom is unbearable. The corpse is the delusion you can treat everyone like an ATM forever. The corpse is the idea you can raise prices, hollow out ownership, then call it accessibility. The corpse is corporate denial. It floats face down in a pool of engagement metrics. Somebody insists it is just resting. If management wants the numbers to recover, they can start by respecting gravity. Price hardware like you want a big audience, not a boutique club. Stop selling basic functionality as premium. Stop stuffing dashboards with ads. Stop monetizing someone's eyesight. Make ownership durable. Make subscription services additive, not mandatory, and maybe listen to the creators. They understand why people play. Fun is not a line item, fun is the mission. Until then, the console war is not happening in ad campaigns. It moved to the checkout aisle at the grocery store. Milk, bread, electricity, they are undefeated. The grocery store is winning, not because people stopped loving games, because management tried to outgreed reality. Reality does not negotiate. At least the grocery store sells something you can eat. Management sells a login, a splash screen, a cheery prompt begging for your credit card. And when those sales charts keep sliding, do not call it a mystery. Call it what it is, a self-inflicted wound. Executives confuse price with value. They confuse fans with hostages. They confuse the line must go up with a business model. They built a clown college. They received a coroner's report. They asked why the joke stopped landing. The joke did not stop landing. The audience just stopped paying for tickets.